Hey, what's going on, y'all? It is 7:02, and I am hoping that you can hear me just fine, just fine, just fine. I'm turning my volume up just a little bit. What's going on, people? Happy to see you. Let me go to my comments just to make sure I don't miss a single comment tonight, not one at all. I'm going to get started in a second. Hey, listen, I'm just trying to give you time so that you can make sure you start sharing this podcast, this broadcast. Make sure you do. Looks like I got somebody watching from YouTube. Kelly Singleton is the name I see. How you doing, Kelly? What's going on, family? I'm excited. I'm just trying to wait for a couple more of y'all to join in because I got a serious topic tonight. Like a serious topic. Oh my God, I got so much to say. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. Just want to make sure that's good because I'm trying music out. I think I told y'all I'm trying out music. I didn't have music before. But listen, hi everybody. You know I'm Angelique. So hello to you, to all my courageous kings, to all my courageous queens. What's going on with y'all? I'm excited. It is Sunday. It is February. And hey, if you missed it, it is Black History Month. I know you couldn't have missed it, but I'm just saying, in case you didn't know, it is Black History Month. It is a month that I personally invest in many ways, at work, at home with my daughter. It does it on social media. So I'm excited. And so the topic that I have tonight does actually fit neatly into Black History Month. It is a historic look at something that's very, very crazy to me, but I experienced it. So it's not just crazy, it's personal. All right. So anyway, hello to all my courageous queens. Hello to my courageous kings. I'm about to get started. Whether this is your first time tuning in or your 31st time tuning in, welcome, welcome, welcome to episode number 36 of my weekly podcast called Silent No More, because I'm silent no more after going through a marriage of domestic violence. So anyway, this podcast is all about domestic violence awareness and action. And so I am looking forward to talking about my topic tonight because man, oh man, the things I have learned in the process of preparing for this. So I am Angelique. That's how my mom said I gotta say it. You are not Angie. Your name is not Angela. Don't let people call you Ange. My mom said your name is Angelique. So I'm telling you it's Angelique. I am a survivor of domestic violence. But beyond that, I am an advocate of freedom and truth. I am a survivor, but I am also an advocate of freedom and truth. So I am the founder of Ladder Masters Inspirational Leadership Group, better known as Ladder Masters. And I am here for 3 reasons and 3 reasons only. Don't ever get it confused or mixed up or misunderstood. I created Ladder Masters only for 3 reasons. That's to bring awareness, break down facades, and build conquerors. So what I'm going to do right now is bring some awareness to something that I didn't even understand until I prepared for tonight's topic. So today's episode, you saw the flyer, so I'm sure you know. But today's episode is titled The History and Reality of Domestic Violence. Get ready to get real. Let me know you're out there. If you're tuning in from Facebook, if you're tuning in from YouTube, let me know you're out there. Say hello, send me a shout out so I can get started and get right into this content. All right, now listen, I'm be honest. Some of y'all gonna get fired up by what I gotta say tonight. You're gonna get fired up because I was pretty darn fired up just simply by the fact of me finding out half this information. There's gonna be others of you who will listen in disbelief. Like, you have to be kidding me that this is a part of the history of domestic violence, y'all. Some of y'all gonna say, wow. All right, I just got a message. But history is history, y'all. History is history. Reality is reality. Truth is truth, period. Period. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So before I get into it, y'all know me. Y'all know me. I'm going to first ask you to do something for me because I prepared and I want as many people as possible to hear this message. My first ask. Hey, what's going on, Nicole? My first ask is that you hit the share button. Just hit share and post it to your own feed. If you could post it to your page, tag somebody in, literally type that's a friend of yours that you really, really, really want them to hear this message. Tag a friend, or if you're in a Facebook group, don't lie. I know you're in a Facebook group. I know you're in a Facebook group. Hit share. Share this podcast or this broadcast to your Facebook group because I'm about to go in. I'm about to go in. Don't get shy on me now. Don't y'all get shy on me. Hit that share button and let's go. Okay. Next thing, listen. Y'all know me. I always say a prayer before I get too far into my message. I always do. So I'm going to do that right now. That's important to me that I invite God's presence into this moment because I have a lot of things to share. I want to make sure I'm sharing them properly and not just that your heart receives it the right way. People who will hear this message later on when they watch the recording, I need them to hear this message the right way and to hear from God during this. So I'm going to say this prayer. Join me in it right now. Father, I just come before you first and foremost, just saying thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I honor and bless you, God, because I'm here. I made it through. I survived. I am victorious. I overcame through you. So, God, I thank you, Father. There are so many women and men and children who go through what we all call domestic violence or abuse, God. And I know for a fact, I know who you are. And so I know that that is not your desire. But we as human beings have done some messed up stuff to each other and to the people on this earth who can actually bring forth life. That is, that's women. So God, I ask you right now that you just fill me up with your spirit so that the words I speak tonight, they settle in, they make sense, they change minds and hearts and lives, and they make people want to step up and make a difference and change some things. So God, I honor you, I bless you, I ask that you control the words that come out of my mouth so that I only say what needs to be said. But at the end of the day, I am bringing awareness, breaking down facades, and building conquerors. I thank you in the name of your son, Christ Jesus. I pray and I say amen. All right, here we go. 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 All right, y'all, listen. This one is going to get interesting. Like I said, if you haven't shared this broadcast yet, I'm going to need you to step on in and do this thing for me because what I'm about to say and share is so important. I said it earlier. This episode is titled The History and Reality. So it's a bit of both. It's what happened and what's now. The history and reality of domestic violence. Domestic violence. Something that, unfortunately, um, I am familiar with, and as some of you are too. And if you're not personally familiar, you likely know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody who's been through it. And it is a terrible thing. So this episode is specifically about the history of domestic violence, and it's to get into how this horrible thing even started. Now, listen, I wasn't here since the creation of the earth, all right? So I only know what I can find in research, but I promise you I did research. But I'm gonna tell y'all tonight, y'all gonna be like, "You lying to me, Angelique." Like, just don't even read anymore. All right, here we go. Listen, y'all. As far as how this world got so bad, how things are so ridiculous and out of place when it comes down to how men and women interact. I have heard everything from male dominance in a patriarchal society, right? Okay, makes sense. To maybe a lot of these abusers, they were victims themselves. Because of that, all the abusers were doing what they saw. Okay, I mean, I've heard that. I personally believe it is an excuse because we all have free will and we do feel right. Do not do something here. All right. Now listen, I just tried to reboot my or replug in my connection. Tell me if you can hear me. I'm going to write a message in here and see because I got a lot to say tonight and I want to make sure. I just put a message in there asking if you can hear me now. Okay, good. I think it was a connection thing, but check this out. So here's where I was, y'all. Okay, here's where I was. So I did a lot of research and I came across this thing that like I couldn't believe. Pray it doesn't disconnect all of you. Let me see. I'm gonna hit refresh. So I'm gonna refresh the broadcast and pray it doesn't disconnect all of you, okay? I pray it doesn't. All right. So listen, I'm back on. Y'all tell me if you can hear me, okay? I appreciate y'all talking to me because I would have kept talking and kept talking. I wouldn't even have known what was going on. So Nicole said I'm back. So I'm hoping that I really am back because I gotta tell y'all some really, really important stuff, okay? I'm gonna wait until let's see, 7:18. Nicole said, okay, you're back. So I hope that was now. All right. So in the very first sentence of this abstract, thank you, great. In the very first sentence, this is what it reads. He says, in the past, the American criminal justice system did not perceive domestic violence as a crime, not even as a problem. Now, I hope y'all heard that. It wasn't a crime, it wasn't even a problem according to the American justice system. Do y'all hear this? It wasn't even a problem. I just cringe. I literally cringe when I read that. But you know what? The unfortunate truth is that man was correct. Let me tell y'all about why I cringe. Because in the 19th century, now just so we're all on the same page, when I say 19th century, I'm talking about like January 1801 to like December of 1900. So the 19th century refers to the year, the 100 years right before, okay? All right. From that period of time, the term domestic violence didn't even exist. No such thing. It wasn't until the 20th century. So when I say 20th century, I mean 1901 to 2000. It is specifically about the 1920s. Are y'all listening? The term didn't even exist. And it wasn't even until about then that federal and state law even defined it or banned any forms of domestic abuse against certain numbers of or designated victim groups. I mean, think about it. I went to college in 1995. I was born in 1977. We're talking 19 Delta Sigma Theta was founded in 1913. Like, think about the time frame, y'all. It wasn't until the 20th century that it was even acknowledged or there was even any legislature for it. There was this article. The article is titled Domestic Violence and the Law, Theory and Practice. This is what it says. Get ready, y'all. This is what it says. Women were viewed this as a woman. Women were viewed as inferior to men. needing to be instructed by men. What we now call domestic violence was simply seen as an appropriate part of that instruction. Did y'all hear me? Men were seen as inferior, women were seen as inferior to men, needing to be instructed by men. I'm talking about the history of this nation, and I'm talking about the history of domestic violence. Somebody send me a note. It's 7:22. Send me a note so I know that you can still hear me loud and clear. All right. Now, historically, the criminal justice system has been characterized by its chronic, not sometimes, not kind of like, but its chronic inattention. Don't care, paying it no mind, nobody worrying about it. Chronic inattention to domestic violence. Now, I am literally about to blow your mind. Okay, good. Thanks, Nicole. I'm gonna keep going. I ain't gonna ask again. I am literally about to blow your mind with what I'm about to say. It's some straight up facts about the history of violence against women. It's facts. I have literally in front of me a timeline. I'm gonna read it, some of this stuff to y'all. Just like I wrote in my flyer, get ready to get real. Now I'm about to walk y'all through it. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start you way back in the 1500s to the 1800s. I told you, I'm reading from a timeline. I need y'all to notice I'm going to post this document after this episode. And I'm probably going to use this document again. I told Sophie a while ago that I'm going to get a round table of women together, and I'm certainly including her. I'm going to get a round table of women together. And those women, we're going to talk about stuff like this. So here we go 1500s to 1800s. The early settlers in America based their laws on an old English common law. Get y'all listen to what I'm about to say. That common law explicitly permitted wife beating for correctional purposes. I did say, I read that. No, I really did say that. It explicitly, very clearly permitted wife beating for correctional purposes because, of course, we had to be corrected. Okay, clearly. The states tried to break away from the law by saying that the husband is only allowed, listen to this, only allowed to whip his wife with a switch that was no bigger than his thumb. That was a law. Are you listening to me? This was written into law that a man was allowed to beat his wife with a switch as long as it was no thicker than his thumb. Okay, that's a lot. Share this post if you haven't yet. Share it. Mississippi's, this is now 1824. Mississippi Supreme Court allows a husband to administer moderate chastisement in case of emergencies. I'm going to need one of y'all to tell me, like, okay, take me back. Take me back to 1824 when in Mississippi, the Supreme Court said, hey, husbands, listen, there's going to be some emergencies with your wife. You are very likely to need to chastise her. Here's the deal. Just make sure it's moderate chastisement because there's going to be some emergency you'll need to chastise her in. Help me out, y'all. What's that emergency? Alabama. We're talking now, we're in 1871. I'm going back, way back. 1871. Alabama is the first state to rescind, meaning to take away, to pull back the legal right of a man to beat his wife. 1871, Alabama, the first state to do it. I'm giving you history. This is the history of domestic violence. It was a law. It was approved. It was okay. It was the thing to do. Take your thumb out, measure it, get yourself a switch. Make sure that switch measured about the thickness of your thumb. If you chastise your wife, then we're all good with that. Just not bigger than your thumb, please. Thank you. Come on now. You got to be kidding me. Let me get down to 1882. Maryland. In 1882, Maryland was the first state to pass a law that made wife beating a crime. Thank you, Maryland. Okay? Maryland in 1882, the state of Maryland was the first state to pass a law that made the beating of a wife a crime, and it was punishable by 40 lashes or a year in jail. Are y'all learning something? Because I'm even reading it again. I read this already. Even read what y'all think about this? Tell me, talk to me. I know what I think. I want to know what y'all think. 1882, Maryland was the first state to pass a law that made it a crime. Yay, Maryland, exactly. Let's get to North Carolina. The North Carolina courts around that time, they declared it that a criminal indictment cannot be brought against a husband unless, y'all ready? Unless the battery is so great as to result in permanent injury. Y'all, I did not read that wrong. I read it just like it's written. North Carolina declared that a criminal indictment cannot be brought against a husband unless the battery to his wife or his girlfriend or whoever is so great that it resulted in permanent injury. You want to know about the history of domestic violence? This is the history right here, where a man was literally written into law. No, no, no. You should beat your wife. She needs to be beaten. She needs to be corrected. She needs to be chastised. And you're the one that's giving the instruction, because otherwise she'd go wayward. She wouldn't know how to do a thing. Are y'all listening to this nonsense? Here we go. 1886, I'll go faster. The North Carolina courts declared that a criminal indictment cannot be brought against her husband unless the battery is so great that it results in permanent injury. Get ready for this. In the late 1800s, this is where we started to see a shift with Queen Elizabeth. When Queen Elizabeth rose to the English throne, then lawmakers began enacting other laws that were reforms for women. That wives can no longer be kept under lock and key. Life-threatening beatings are considered grounds for divorce, and wives and daughters can no longer be sold into prostitution. It took until the 1800s, the late 1800s, with the rise of Queen Elizabeth, for that to come into play. You want to know about today's mentality? Rewind the tapes. Rewind the tapes. I'm going to get to that in a second. All right, now let's get to the 1900s to the 1960s, a little bit closer to our time. Now, women are allowed to vote for the first time in 1919. Remember this now, we're women, so we got to remember this. In 1919, women were allowed to vote for the first time with the passing of the 19th Amendment. If you don't remember it, it's the 19th Amendment in 1919. Keep the numbers together. 1919, the 19th Amendment, that was when we were allowed to vote. God, just thinking about the times, it's crazy to me. Here we go. You get to the 50s, the 1950s, and the 1960s. Now we're into the civil rights era, the anti-war era, the Black liberation movement. Let me throw my fist up real quick. The Black liberation movements. And those things all together start to challenge this country and the way we've been running our country in this quote unquote democracy and all this stuff they talk about, right? This thing, this civil rights, anti-war, Black liberation, that laid the foundation for the feminist movement. Isn't that something? All those things together were like the perfect storm or the foundation for this women's feminist movement. Let me keep going. 1962, New York domestic violence cases are transferred from the criminal court to the civil court, which pisses me off. But it was transferred from the criminal court to the civil court, where only civil procedures apply. Now that frustrates me, because then that meant that the husband never faced any real harsh penalties that they would have suffered if it was kept in the criminal court. Okay, New York, I'm not sure where you went with that, but that kind of pisses me off. 1965, Congress begins passing laws that prohibited discrimination against women in employment and requiring equal pay for work. It's coming, y'all. We start seeing it's coming. A little bit here, a little bit there for women. But think about where it was. Think about what men were allowed to do. The mentality at that time. 1966, beating as cruel and inhumane treatment becomes the grounds for divorce in New York. Thank you, New York. Took y'all till 1966. but at least you got on board. So when you're beating me and it's inhumane and it's cruel treatment, I actually have grounds for divorce. New York passed it in 1966. 1967, the state of Maine is the first place to open up a shelter. It was the first shelter in the United States. Sophie, Nicole, all are y'all listening to this? Like we're talking this is times that we know of. 1967, right? It's crazy. The 60s and the 70s, 60s and 70s. The women's liberation movement started. It started, y'all. It claimed that what goes on in the privacy of people's homes is deeply political, meaning no more of that. What happens in my house stays in my house. No, baby, it is deeply political. I can't stand that. You know what? I remember the day, not to go too far into this, but I remember the day that my ex-husband literally asked me, so do you tell your friends everything? Because for me, what goes inside on in my relationship stays here. Everybody shouldn't have input into what we're doing. What I didn't know was that he was laying the foundation for secrecy, isolation, and thus abuse. I didn't know. Now I know. Woo, Lord have mercy. 1970s. I was born in 77. So here we go. Here we go. Women were coming together with African Americans. Y'all listening? So we got the women's liberation thing happening. We got civil rights happening. Women, white women, black women, Hispanic women, we're coming together. We're coming together because why? Now we're all seeking equal rights. And as a result, women started talking about domestic violence against women. They started talking about this violence in the form of spousal abuse and sexual assault. It's amazing to me how much time it took. Oh my gosh. 1970s in Chicago, married women who leave their husbands due to battering are denied welfare. Ah, Chicago. Oh, Illinois. In the 70s, if a woman left her husband because she was being battered, she was denied welfare because, hey, your husband got money. You should be getting that money. And what is that? What is it essentially telling you? Go back because he has money. So go back and suck it up because you need his money, right? Well, you shouldn't have left in the first place. Oh, Chicago, how dare you? Oh my God, I can't believe it. All right, let me keep going. 1970s, there were grassroots efforts. They were beginning to transform public consciousness and the lives of women. So there was a phrase, you know how today we have the Me Too, that kind of thing. At that time, the phrase was, we will not be beaten. That was the phrase. We will not be beaten. That became the mantra of women across the country. They were organizing to end domestic violence. We are now in the 70s, y'all. We are now in the 70s. I'm going to skip ahead. 1975, most states in the US allow wives to bring criminal action against a husband who inflicts injury upon her. 1975, y'all. I mean, like, I was born 2 years later. It wasn't until 1975 that most of the states in the US were allowing women to bring criminal action against their husbands who were injuring them, abusing them, and beating them. 1975. Let me keep going. Let's see. Things were happening in Scotland. Things were happening in Brazil. I'm going to skip ahead. In 1976, y'all ready? The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence is formed through a grassroots impact on state legislation. It was the first coalition, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I am proud to be from Pennsylvania on that one. All right, let me keep going. 1976. This one I didn't like. Y'all ready? Now, Pennsylvania, you let me down. Listen to this one. In Pennsylvania, an Old Town ordinance is still on the books that no husband shall beat his wife after 10 o'clock at night or on Sundays. Did y'all hear what I just said? Oh, I cannot swallow that. There was an ordinance in Pennsylvania that was still on the books that said, hey, husbands, you can beat your wife. Okay. Okay. But listen, here's the thing, not after 10 o'clock and not on Sunday. What? Because that's the Lord's Day. Y'all playing with me. Y'all playing with me. Are you serious? 1976. This law was still on the books, y'all. I was born a year later in 77. 1977, women around the country march. They have this thing. It was the annual Take Back the Night. So women were walking together to gain confidence because of their collective presence. They begin to feel the strength and that unity among them. Oh my God, when I read this stuff, we get to the 80s. The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence starts to hold regional retreats, statewide meetings in order to build support and involve more women and strengthen the coalition's activities. I'm getting close to the end. 1988, we're now in the 80s, y'all. Let me see, what music was out in the 80s? Nicole, what music was playing in the 80s? What were we listening to? Because now I'm at 1988. The Victims of Crimes Act is amended to make awards available for the first time to victims of domestic violence. Are y'all listening? It wasn't until 1988 that you can actually win money. You could literally sue in a lawsuit and be paid for being taken through abuse and suffering domestic violence. Why did it take till 1988? 1989, we had 1,200 battered women's programs, which sheltered 300,000 women and children per year. We're at 1989. Now I'm in the 90s and I'm almost done. 1990, stalking is first identified as a crime. 1990, the first time judges are required to consider any history of spousal abuse before determining child custody or visitation rights. Are y'all listening? It wasn't until 1990. 1992, the Surgeon General ranks abuse by husbands to be the leading cause of injuries to women ages 15 to 44. In 1992, the Surgeon General made the statement that it is abuse by husbands that is the leading cause of injuries to women. I'm just processing some of it, y'all, as we go through. 1992, the American Medical Association releases guidelines that says, doctors, you are to screen women for signs of domestic violence. Are you hearing me? 80s music, NWA, Slick Rick, MC Hammer. Let me go back a step. We talking in the 80s. Thank you, Nicole. In the 80s, all of these things are happening. And it's the first time that women could actually be awarded financially if they are a victim of domestic violence. I think about that, like what I was doing in the 80s, not realizing all this stuff was going on. All right. I just said in 1992 that the American Medical Association released guidelines that doctors had to screen women, screen them for signs of domestic violence. 1994, y'all might know this well because I'm about to go into my topic. But the Violence Against Women Act is signed by Bill Clinton. 1994, the Violence Against Women Act is signed by Bill Clinton. The point is that it provided billions of dollars toward prosecuting crimes against women. It was signed by Bill Clinton in 1994. It was sponsored at the time by then Senator, future Vice President, and now President of the United States, Joe Biden. It was actually reauthorized in 2000, 2005, 2013, and 2019. It was reauthorized. Somebody tell me why. If you know that violence against women is wrong, why do you have to keep reauthorizing these bills? This stuff should just be standard fare, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Y'all, I want y'all to hear me real quick. The stuff in this timeline that I just went through, I'm going to post it on Facebook. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn, and I will try to save it or put it in a video somehow on YouTube. Maybe, maybe not, but it will definitely be on Facebook and LinkedIn. The stuff in this timeline, it reflects the thinking, the behavior, the customs, the laws, the freaking ignorance, the arrogance, the narcissism that women, we as women, are still fighting against today. It is crazy. Now, listen, y'all know the definition of domestic violence. I'll say it again. It has changed over the years, But the bottom line is it's the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, any other abusive behavior as part of, let's be clear, a systematic pattern of power and control perpetrated by one intimate partner over another. This stuff is willful, it's intentional. Do not be misled. It is on purpose. So, look, that definition has changed over the years, but we got one, right? We got a working definition. There are laws against abuse now, right? So we're all good. We're all good, right? We got laws, we got a definition. People know what happens. We're good, right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. We are not good. As a matter of fact, we are far, far from good. Listen, here's what I want to tell y'all tonight. In my opinion, having been through domestic violence, here's what I know. In my opinion, we are living in what I call the shift. Okay? What's the shift, Angelique? Got these little fancy words. What's the shift? Let me tell you. The shift I'm referring to is this transition from men. Listen, I love me a man. Don't be confused. I love a man. But this nonsense that I'm talking about right now, I don't love. I can't stand. But let me just tell it like a TI is. The shift I'm referring to is the transition from men enjoying the unrestrained freedom to abuse the women in their lives, from being told it was their right. They had a right to beat women by law, and there was no need to even hide the abuse. Let me get back to this phrase I'm calling the shift. Back then, they didn't have to hide it. It was their right to do it. They had the freedom to do it. But in this transition, this shift, the power and control has been taken from them. You know, I think what happened was there's some folks that just said, I ain't willing to let that go. That's a part of what we've been doing throughout history. How dare you tell me I am still not able to do that? The power that they had is being taken away simply because what? Some person with a big legislative title basically said, I'm going to put my giant Hancock on this document. You can't do that no more. This all sounds so familiar. It reminds me so much of slavery. It just, oh my God, Black History Month. Ooh, anyway, do you know what happens? Do you know what happens? Hey, I appreciate that. All these comments, united together and stronger. Hey, I asked Nicole way back when I was doing the timeline and I said, what's in the 80s music? She was like, NWA, Slick Rick, and MC Hammer. I forgot about MC Hammer. You can't forget MC Hammer, Angelique. I appreciate you too, Sophie. This is crazy. It is crazy. The shift from having total right, freedom, ability. You were actually told, go right ahead and do that. To abuse a woman, to now saying you can't do that, and it's written here in this document. You can't do that. That's against the law. We're in a shift. Do you know what happens when you tell someone that they are no longer allowed to be in control? When you say that you cannot beat your wife anymore or your girlfriend in public, what do they do? What do they do, y'all? What do they do? Yes, there are still men who, thank you, Sophie, who have that mentality. They think they can control women. And listen, I'm speaking like this because I'm a woman. And it happened to me from a man. But let's not get it twisted. There are women who are with women and abusing them. There are men who are with men and abusing them. There are transgender people being abused. There's all kinds of abuse taking place. The focus of this is the history. But let me tell you, times have certainly changed. You see this kind of abuse happening in all kinds of relationships. And only because I'm a woman am I focusing on the men here. Okay? But trust and believe it is happening to all kinds of people. So do you know what happens when you tell somebody, hey, you can't do that no more? That's against the law. I'm taking your power away to control this woman, this God, this creature of God who should have never been treated like that in the first place. I am taking your right away from doing that. Do you know what happens? Let me tell you what. Let me tell you what happens if you don't know. They simply take it underground. That's what they do. They hide it. So they get away with it by unleashing the abuse in private. domestic violence, the four walls of a home or an apartment, or even inside of a car. They unleash it in private when you're in the car on the way to church. Been there, done that. They got everything to say out their mouths, call you all kind of nasty names. But then when you get to church, the arms around your shoulder, your baby this and your baby that, and I love you and all that old cute crap because they're in front of people. They took it underground. They hide what they're doing. I can't stand them for it. I can't stand them for it. You know what? Let me tell y'all something. It is bad out here. It is bad out here in the United States. Domestic violence. We talking about this COVID pandemic. Let me tell y'all something. Domestic violence is its own pandemic, and it is happening right here. 1 in 4 women, y'all. 1 in 4 women. 25% of the population knows what this is like, of the female population knows what this experience is like. They have experienced it in their lifetime. It's just crazy to me. Don't you think for 1 second that domestic violence is only happening to a woman here and another woman there? No, it ain't that big of a deal. It don't happen like that. Let me clarify. You want to talk about domestic violence? I gave you the history. This episode is called The History and the Reality. Let me give you today's reality. Domestic violence happens in every community. It affects all people, regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. It affects all people. On average, I'm talking about today. I said the history and the reality, didn't I? On average, nearly 20 people per minute. I said per minute. Nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. I don't even like to say it. In 1 year, I said 20 people per minute. Do the math. It might take you a little bit. Let me help you out. That means that in 1 year, that equates to more than 10 million men and women, more than 10 million adults in the United States every single year experience domestic violence. More than 10 million. I am telling you what I know. I've looked this up. This is bad. In America, women ages 18 to 34 experience the highest rates of domestic violence. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by their intimate partner during their lifetime. 1 in 4 women, 1 in 10 men. On a typical day, stay with me, y'all. On a typical day, domestic violence hotlines nationwide receive over 19,000, some data says 20,000 calls every single day. When I tell you the history and I bring you up to speed to today, to today's reality, there's a reason. Domestic violence is correlated with high rates of depression, suicidal behavior. This is bad. 19% of domestic violence involves a weapon. A study of intimate partner homicides found that 20% of victims, 20% of the victims were not even the intimate partner who was the intended target. Did you hear me? A study of intimate partner homicide found that 20% of the victims were not even the intimate partner who was the target, but instead they were family members, friends, neighbors, persons who intervened, law enforcement responders, or even bystanders. 72% of all murder, suicide involve an intimate partner. 94% of these victims, of the victims of these murders, suicides, are female. Oh, I'm gonna keep going because I got something else to say. It really is something that bothers me 50% of the United States cities that are surveyed, 50% of the US cities that were surveyed, they reported that domestic violence is a primary cause of homelessness. When women flee domestic abuse, y'all, they are often forced. They don't have a choice. They are often forced to leave their homes and they often do not have anywhere else to turn. This is bad. Power and control are in full effect. The cycle of abuse is real. Y'all, listen, this is bad, and this is a life I never want you to live. I never want you to live. And since it is so hard to stop abusive relationships once they're in motion, my goal is to keep you from ever even being in that situation. Here comes the big point of the night that I want to make. All right. This is, if you haven't been listening, you need to listen right now. Remember, remember what I said in the beginning. Women were viewed as inferior to men. This is the history of it. They needed to be instructed by men. What we now call domestic violence, at that time, a long time ago, was simply seen as an appropriate part of this instruction that women needed from men. Like I said earlier, we are living in what I call the shift from the existence of the right of men to abuse to this other concept of respect for civil liberties. And guess what? Some of them don't like it. Now, I told y'all, we know that most victims of domestic violence are women and most of the batterers are men, but it also happens females do this to men as well. But I'm staying on the male side. That was their right, and now it's not. You think they all let it go? No. Unfortunately, no. And so I sit here every week talking to you because I never want to see you in that situation. And if I can just pass along enough information to you, enough information and data and just wisdom, if I can just share a little bit to keep you out of it, to keep you from running into one of these people that still thinks that they should be able to benefit from the past, from how the laws used to be, if I can just help you a little bit, then I have absolutely done my job. I am personally here to help you, to help keep you from getting caught up in the shift. So here's the deal. Hear me. I'm getting to a close. Hear me. The behavior of abusers, it is calculated. It is a choice. Please understand, they're not crazy. They are not crazy. They are not sick. Everybody wants to say, oh, something wrong with him. He must have a nope, nope, ain't buying it. They're not crazy. They're not sick, and they are not confused. Okay. And you know what else? They are not angry. So if you are in a relationship and this stuff is going on right now, and he was so mad at me because I didn't cook the right thing. He was so mad at me because I took too long with my girls when I was hanging out. He was just angry. Nah, boo, he is not angry. Because if you accept the fact that he is angry, then you then have to also accept the fact or the belief that, my God, I must have done something to really make him angry. No, no. It's a part of power and control, a desire to keep you in the cycle of abuse. It has nothing to do with you because I will promise you this. It wouldn't have mattered if you got home on time, if you made the best meal ever, or if you sexed them down every single day of the week. If that man is abusive, he is just that. He is abusive, and you're going to get it no matter what you do or don't do. You will experience it. So my job is to keep you from ever getting into a relationship with these kinds of people, to share the truth with you, to tell you what you need to know, to get your eyes wide open, your ears, as I tell my daughter, your listening ears turned on so that you never find yourself in that situation. And if you ever do, you recognize it the moment you see it and you get out. They are manipulators, okay? They feel no empathy for others and they want total domination over you through creating fear. Oh, thank you, Keisha. Thank you. Thank you. Coach Keisha, Coach K. Listen, I am here to bring awareness, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I know sometimes in these situations, I'm getting close to time. I know sometimes it's difficult because you enter into a relationship and you think, God, he's amazing. Oh my God. You tell all your girls about him. You're like, man, this might be the one. Like, yo, he is doing it. He is treating me right. He is calling me when I want him to talk. He's buying me things. He's so considerate. This person presents themselves to you in a way that they convince you that that's who they are, that they are everything you've been looking for. Can I tell you a secret? They're only being what you told them that you wanted. You just didn't realize what was going on. They became everything you wanted. And oh my God, I think I can marry him. And they get you so caught up, unfortunately, that when they make the transition over to really showing who they are, your brain can't process it. Your brain is struggling because of the fact that you understood them to be this, and now they're being that. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I believed this, but the facts show that. How do I reconcile it? Let me give you a little tidbit of information. Don't try to reconcile it. What you believed in the beginning, unfortunately, ain't the truth. Deal with the facts. Deal with what you see. Deal with what you see the pattern to be. Because if you don't deal with the pattern, then you're not dealing with the truth. I will tell you, like what was told to me, put a paper bag over that face, deal with the actions and the personality. Because if you keep worrying about, well, I thought he was this and I thought he was that, and you don't deal with what you're seeing right now, it's the cognitive dissonance that's messing you up, what you believe versus what you're seeing now. And you can't seem to figure out, there's a disconnect. How do I make it work? Well, instead of you making it work, instead of you trying to force your mind to say, well, I don't want to believe what I see, so I'm going to hold on to what I thought because that'll make it easier for me. I'll just believe something else. No, the truth is the truth. The facts are the facts. I did the same thing. I fell totally in love. And I had a hard time admitting to what I was now seeing. That's a part of what took me a while to get out of that thing. But let me tell you something. I thank God for the courage. I thank God for the strength that I am now where I am, sitting here talking to y'all, doing me, looking different, loving myself, starting new, trying new things, meeting new people, living a whole new life. And all I'm saying to you is this: domestic violence has deep roots. I don't care that it wasn't called domestic violence way back then, but there were laws in place. There were laws in place that allowed men, that said you have the right to abuse. Then later on, we fought against that. Now the law says you don't have the right to abuse. Trust and believe. There are men and even women, unbelievably drives me crazy, who think that they should still have that right. You have to be on guard for them. Here's what I'm going to tell you in the end. I say this every week. The one thing that abusers cannot stand is time. So I need you to take your time. Wait them out. Don't be so quick to move in. I did that. Mm. Don't be so quick to get married. Don't be so ready to have kids. Because when they get you tied up like that, do you have any idea how hard it is to extract yourself? Trust me, I know. So, abusers don't like time. And if you wait them out, if you take your time, you will have the opportunity to see what they really don't want you to ever see. Because it's all the stuff they've been hiding underground. They're trying to keep it on the low. They don't want you to discover it. They don't. But wait them out. Because that history, that deep, deep, disgusting past that we have with laws that allowed men to abuse women, there's plenty of them today that still think the same way. My prayer for you, my prayer for you, my prayer for you is that you will never get caught up. You will never run into that man who says, or who believes, I'm still want to do that. That's the life I still want. I'm gonna put some music back on real quick. All right. So we're about to close out. I want to know, do y'all have any questions? We're at the end. I stated a whole lot of laws. I mean, I took it back, and I'm going to post this thing, y'all. I'm going to post this thing. But listen, it's deep. Don't ever take it for granted. Do not think that everybody is here and they only want the best. A lot of people do, but unfortunately, there's some out there that are creating the statistic of 1 in 4 women being abused in their lifetime. Don't let it be you. Don't let it be you. Hey, listen, tonight's episode was called The History and Reality of Domestic Violence. I gave you the history. I gave you the reality. Unfortunately, I lived the reality, and many of you did too. I never want you to live it. My prayer is that if you have, you never live it again, because I love you that much. So, all right, it is 8:02. I'm going to go check my comments real quick to make sure there's nothing else in here. Sophie, Felicia, Nicole, Keisha, Nuria. Sophie is in here multiple times. There's so many of y'all. I appreciate you so much. I think my bestie is on here somewhere, but I don't know if she's able to get in. I just want to tell y'all how much I appreciate you. Yes, there are men who still have that mentality. They think they can control women and actually should be able to control women. Well, guess what? We busting that whole thing up. We are building awareness, breaking down facades, and building conquerors. And that's what I'm here to do. All right, y'all. It's 8:03. I'm out of here. I will make sure by tomorrow I post this. It's very important. These images of this information about the history, the timeline. Blessings to all of you. I want you to have a good night, a wonderful night. I love you. I will see you next Sunday. Let me see what else is on here. All right, y'all. I will see y'all later. Peace out. Thank you so much. See y'all next week.